Gittleman here, Artistic Director of your Dayton Philharmonic, with a Piano Bench chat for February 2024, and that was something close to a rendition of music by Tchaikovsky, The Dance of the Little Swans from Swan Lake. Swan Lake is what's coming up very soon at your Dayton Performing Arts Alliance. I and the musicians of the orchestra will be in the pit, while the dancers of Brandon Ragland's wonderful Dayton Ballet Company will be dancing the very cool approach to Swan Lake of choreographer Septime Weber. Swan Lake it's a weird-ass story in the original. And what Septime did is he transposed the story to, I guess you'd call it, Gilded Age New York in the 1912, I think is the year he sets it in. And it's in the frame of a story about the young, sort of 21, I think, year-old son of a very rich New York family who has to decide who he's going to marry. And of course, he has to marry right, being the son of a rich, presumably the eldest son of a rich family. And he's torn between these different ideas of who he wants to marry, and psychological stuff is mixed up in there. And he has these dreams, and the dreams are where we're transported to the traditional looking Swan Lake with the white swans and the black swans as he tries to work out this big problem. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the music, and in particular, this wonderful little piece. The music for Swan Lake, Tchaikovsky wrote about 2 3/4 hours worth of music. In Septime Weber's version of the story, the Philharmonic plays just under about 2 hours of music total. And the music is made up of a whole bunch of different numbers. There's about, in our version, there's about, I think, 37 different numbers, which range from about a minute long to about 10 minutes long for the longest of them. And each of these musical numbers serves a different sort of function. The shorter ones tend to be solos for individual dancers, or maybe a couple of dancers, that are highly technical and very, very difficult to perform, which is why they're so short, because if they were longer than a minute or a minute and a half, nobody, not in Tchaikovsky's time, not even in our time, would be able to dance them. The longer sections tend to be sometimes narrative things or big set pieces, a big party dance, a waltz for everybody on stage, where the technical demands are not quite as onerous as they are in the short ones. But this is an example of one of the short ones, a dance for 4 of the swans. And Tchaikovsky has this amazing gift for writing music that is just perfect for the dancing situation. And to do that, he uses very, very basic musical forms. And it's funny because I haven't thought about this in, gosh, not since I was in college. But this piece, The Dance of the Little Swans, is using 2 of the most basic musical forms in Western classical music. One of them is called the period. And a period is simply, how do I say this? It's 2 phrases which begin the same way, and in some cases the ending of the second phrase is a little more emphatic than the ending of the first phrase. But in Tchaikovsky's case, he has this, this 1 bar of intro, and then this little melody. And the first part of the period is when you hear the 4 bars of the melody. And then the second part is exactly the same, except he adds instruments and you hear the higher octave. And that's a period. So it's a very well-defined and regularly shaped musical form, which is good for the choreographer because there's an even number of bars and it's easy for the dancers to learn the steps and have them sync to the music. Then we get a second period, same structure, but different music, which goes sort of like this. Page turn. And the he repeats it again with the higher instruments in the higher octave. And after that period, guess what he does? He goes back to the beginning. So you have a period, a contrasting period, and then a return to the first period. And that's another musical form which we call ABA, a three-part structure. It's sometimes called ternary form, but you won't be tested on that. But a three-part form where you have one thing, then you have another thing, and then you go back to the first thing. Very well structured, easy for the dancers to remember, has a beautiful logic to it, and it's just perfect for the dance of the Little Swans. This is a really exciting production to be working on. I'm very excited about it. I love the music. The dancing is fabulous. The dancers are fabulous. And though with the first time I experienced it, I thought the modern framing of the story was a little bizarre, I'm used to it now, and it actually, to me, makes more sense than the original story, which is really kind of all this mystical, magical stuff. In any event, if you are anywhere close to Dayton, Ohio, when we are putting on this production of Swan Lake, please join us. You will not regret it. It's a wonderful show and beautiful music, and hope you take advantage of it. I'll leave you with a little bit of the dance of the Little Swans in the studio, which I recorded at yesterday's run of the ballet in the studio, and one of our four swans wasn't available that day. So you'll see it with only 3 swans, but you'll see how wonderful the dancing is and how intricate the steps are. And it will make sense to you that it's only about 1.5 minutes long, because believe me, you won't see it on the video, but when they're done, those dancers are huffing and puffing because it's very difficult. But you won't see that from the audience. It will seem effortless, as lots of ballet does, and that's part of the fun. Have a wonderful February, and I'll see you in March for another Piano Bench Chat.